Well, we're back at it here. It is just a little bit after 5 o'clock in the morning. My nephews are actually feeding cows right now. And we had a little bit of a rain shower here yesterday afternoon, and it shut us down about 4 o'clock. And this one field that I'm on now, I only had like 4 acres left to it. And this is going to be the last of the conventional corn. We're going to, not the last of it, but we're going to switch this planter over to BMR. So I was hoping to get this done here last night. Now I'm out of corn on number 6. So this is the other version of cab corn here. You carry a bag of corn in the cab with you here. I had the bags up front, but when it rained a little bit here yesterday afternoon, it didn't make for a good spot to have these paper bags. So we'll go ahead and we'll move some corn around from one hopper to the other and try to get this planter planted out so that we can switch seed and not have any seed mixed in from this field going to the next one. Alright, we've got all the hoppers opened up. Number 6 ran out of corn. See, that's just about empty, or it is empty. These other ones are just about empty. And what we're going to do is, I've got that bag of corn out of the tractor cab, and we're going to fill this sump up level. Fill all the hoppers up level right in the sump area there, and that should get us done with this field here. So I have been working with this Olight company for exactly a year now, and they've got a sale coming up on the 27th here. This is the Baton 2, works great to have clipped to your hat. They have a Baton 3, which is the same thing, and then I'm using this Baton 3 case here, and then this case, I don't know if I can get it opened up with one hand or not, but you could put the, there you go, you could drop the light down inside it, and it actually charges the light. And I just, of course, throw this in my pocket, and it works great for that. So if any of you are interested in any of their lights, just click on the link in the description. It'll take you to their site, and they'll show their sale that they've got going on here on the 27th. If there's nothing in the sale that you're interested in, you can just type in Andy FFF in the coupon code area, and you'll get 10% off. So we're gonna go ahead and put just a little bit of corn in each one of these hoppers, get this field done, then we're gonna move over into BMR. Alright, we've got our bags all set out here. Like I was saying, this is a BMR silage that we've moved over into. Pioneer P1449 and Brevant B14B77SX or something like that. Both of them are 114-day variety. We're not splitting this planter for any special reason. The reason why I'm doing it this way is I only had 8 bags of seed left. Actually, I don't have a full 8th bag there, but this is all we had left of the Brevant, and I just wanted to have it evenly divided here. I don't think there's any real advantage of splitting the planter to see how your different varieties do, because you get some cross pollination going on, and the corn that you have growing side by side is not really representative of what either variety is. It's like taking a Jersey cow and breeding it with a Holstein. You're getting a half breed. That's not representative of either breed. You should keep the breeds together so as not to screw things up with the cross pollination. If you actually want to see how these varieties do, try to keep them away from each other. It's kind of hard to do that because of the soil types and soil conditions and whatever like that, but we grow both varieties or both kinds of BMR. just because we've had good luck with both of them. We mix them in the bunk. Again, they're both BMR hybrids, and we seem to do good with both kinds of seed. The Brevant is the old Mycogen brand, and they were sold out to Brevant or something like that. So we better get this planter filled up. Things are starting to dry out. That little bit of a rain shower that we got yesterday was nothing more than a heavy dew at this point. So we'll get the seed in, and then we're going to run a grease gun around the planter. All right, now we've got our seed corn all loaded in, and we're going to change to the field that we are going to be planting here on the Climate Field View app here that's on the iPad. We're changing over from one field to the other. Now we've got to change our varieties around here. So we're going to add, we've got Brevant in rows 1 through 8. So we're going to change that to the variety that it is, 14B76SX. And this is in rows 1 through 8. So we're going to shut off 9, 10, 9 through 16. We're going to hit done. Now we're going to add our other variety, which is Pioneer P 1449 AMX. And that is rows 9 through 16. And that's done. Now, the one advantage to using the Climate Field View, we can kind of keep track of where everything is planted and see it on a map and all that crap. The other thing that we use Climate Field View for is, being that we have a dairy farm, we have to have a CAFO permit for spread manure. You have to kind of show what's using the nutrients that you're putting down. And when we go to spread manure, we've got to document we have to document where all of our manure goes. And I'm kind of speaking to the dairy guys out there that don't know much about this Climate Field View, and to kind of explain to you guys that aren't in the dairy farming that we do have to keep track of where we put all of our manure. And we also have to keep track of what the weather is like, as far as, you know, did you get rainfall the following day after spreading? What was the ground conditions like before you spread? In other words, did it rain the day before you spread, or did it rain while you were spreading? Climate Field View also keeps track of rainfall records, and it does that per field. So there's several weather stations around the whole country, and it uses the information from whatever weather station that is near any of the fields you have. So I get an email in the morning that'll tell me what we've gotten for precipitation the day before, and if we have a CAFO inspection, that Climate Field View rainfall report will work for our manure rainfall documentation. So I don't even write down what the weather did the day before, the day during, and the day after, because we can just go back to our older records from Climate Field View. So that's one advantage for any of you dairy guys that have a CAFO permit. It's like $750 or $1,000 a year, and just the rainfall records alone, it's worth it for that. Now on this 4640 display, you could see this pink line. I have a boundary, but I'm going to redo a boundary. I'm going to do another boundary. However, I need to change the display over from what varieties were in the corn planter. I had one variety in 2 rows, and then I had this other variety in the other 14 rows. On the 2630 display, it did not allow you, which I could be wrong, but from what I remember On the old 2630 display, the display we used up until this year, you could only split the planter. In other words, 8 rows on one side and 8 rows on the other. You couldn't, if you had multiple varieties, you couldn't, you couldn't split it up any more than 2 varieties. When you're using Seed Star on the 4640, it allows you to put in at least 6. And that is under the custom function. We're going to do, we've got 2 varieties, but there's no real way for us to separate out the varieties, to do 8 rows at a time, catching one variety and then come back down through the field and do 8 rows of the other, which if we're going every other time, there'll be 16 rows of one variety and 16 rows of the other if you go just back and forth, because you've got one side of the planter is going to be planting 16 rows at a time, but we're not harvesting 16 rows or 8 rows. We're harvesting either 6 rows with the combine or 10 rows with the chopper. So what I'm going to do here, so I don't screw up the harvesting of this crop, which is going to go through the chopper, I'm just going to put a custom, which is not custom here, but I'm going to write down in my notes that I have 2 varieties, but the seed itself, I'm just going to put down Brevant and Pioneer, so that when it harvests it, it just harvests it all as one variety, and then we'll know we have a mixture there. If I don't do it that way, it's going to screw everything up, and sometimes it'll be recording and sometimes it won't, because it'll be a split row and it'll just screw it all up. So this page here allows us to put our varieties in, and I'm just going to put a single variety, and I'm going to call it Brevant and Pioneer, and the phone's ringing, so we're going to go to that. Okay, we're just getting ready to make our first pass around the outside. I'm going to go ahead and record a new boundary track, just because it's been hay for 4 years now, and I need to record a new boundary track, and then next year when we go in to plant corn here, I'll be able to use this year's boundary track. So we have picked the option here to run off of the right hand side of the planter, and it's going to record a boundary track right from the right furthest point of the planter. So we're going to hit record here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a guidance track at the same time. So I'm going to put a straight track right alongside the field, or right alongside the road here, and I'm just going to call it roadside, and I'm going to put a date there too. This display does put a date, and I'm just going to put the year. It will put the date on when that track was made. It puts a time stamp right when that guidance track was made. It didn't do that on the 2630, and you never knew if you had a good track from the year before or not. So once I get up alongside the road here, I'm gonna hit A, which is that's essentially dropping a pin there, and then a pin up at the other end, and then what that's going to do is put a straight line between those 2 pins. I think everybody understands that. Enough of us on YouTube here have kind of talked about that. Another thing I could do here too, and we'll talk about it once we get moving. So what it's going to be doing is it's going to be recording a guidance track, or a boundary track rather, around the field. And we're going to be able to record a guidance track at the same time, and then that way, once we get around the headlands of this field and we want to do a guidance track, we'll be just about parallel with our headland pass. So we'll get dialed in here. I want my A to be here, and then I'll drop B when I get up to the other end, and I'm going to go ahead and put this camera down, and we'll come back at you in a little while here. Alright, now I've made it all the way around the field, and on the climate field view it's got two different colors because I've got two different hybrids in there. Now I've got a guidance track that's parallel with the road. You can see the white and blue lines there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to new track, and it gives you several different options that you didn't have on the previous displays, the 2630 and the 2600. I have a boundary track, so now it's going to fill in the boundary, and then it's going to put a guidance track that's going to mimic that boundary all the way around the field. So it's generating. I'm going to save it, and now I have a guidance track that is going to get me around the field for the second time. So I'm going to come over here like that, and it's not quite lit up blue yet because, or white, because I'm not close enough to it. So once it gets close enough, it turns white. I hit the auto steer button. Now it's going to get us all the way around the field. Now, once I get up into a 90-degree corner, which there isn't quite a 90-degree up here, I've kind of turned that gradually. It'll turn that corner, but most generally what I do is I come into the corner, I do a 90. So I come into the corner, pick up, turn around, go back the other way, and then I hit my auto steer. Now, one of the things you can do with this while you're doing your boundary around the field, you can kind of cheat it, and you could do it with the other displays as well. If you're going up through the edge of the field and you know it's straight, but you know, maybe you're worrying about watching the edge of the planter and you're kind of not driving that straight, you can hit pause. And when you hit pause, from where you hit pause until you start recording again, it'll put a straight line. So like this part here, there's a ditch that goes across. For example, if I had a wet hole there that I wanted to drive around this year and knew it wasn't going to be there next year, I could hit pause before it and then hit record after, and then it would put a straight line right through that little, it's a little ditch there. So I want to have that recorded in, because when I plant this next year, I don't want to plant straight across that, because I'll end up hitting it with the chopper. So it's gonna just come up to this spot in the field where I dogged around that ditch, and it's just gonna turn me a little bit, and then of course it's gonna turn me right back. So we'll keep on keeping on here. We've got how many acres in this field? There's like 36 or something like that, and doing the recording it's 36.6, and it was 5.75 acres so far, so just about 5 acres around the headland. So just some of these things that I have learned from using this display, and then some of the features kind of carried over from the previous display. But the biggest advantage that this one has is the boundary track recording. That is makes things real handy. So we're just gonna keep on planting here. Alright, we got done with the Naughton farm. Now we're down to Paul Burt's farm here now, down in Cardiff Valley. And that mountain right there is called Bear Mountain. Several years ago, this had to be like 35 years or so ago, down to the south here a little bit, that whole mountain kind of crept its way down. It had somewhat of a little bit of a mudslide. You can somewhat see the different height of the trees right there. I think it was about in that area, if I remember right. The mountain kind of slid down, lost a couple of houses over there, and Tully Farms Road is right on the other side of this swamp here, and it even had mud that came right across the road. Paul here that he has passed away, but he had rented some land, or I don't know, he might even own the land on the other side of Tully Farms Road. He was working in one of the fields, went to lunch, moved his tractor out of the field, and that mountain, when it had the mudslide, came over onto that field, if I recall the story correctly here. So we kind of talked about climate field deal a little bit, and I don't really want to get into too much more of talking about that. It's going to bore everybody, and I'm out of corn here. I've got to move corn around, and that is going to do it for this video, folks. So I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next video.